Hello, y'all. Welcome back to MD Studios. I'm Shaan Desai.
And I'm Satvik Mada.
We are coming to you from Mr. Jeremiah's Cayce English 2 GT/Pre-P 1215.2 class on the 17th of December. So get ready to watch an amazing English podcast recommended by J.K. Rowling. You know what, Satvik? I was watching the Thor Ragnarok movie, and it reminded me of Dante's Inferno.
How so?
The flying world at the beginning of the movie reminded me of hell. And the guy made a fire, Surtur, kind of looks like the interpretation of Phlegus from the fifth circle of hell, the mythological creature who ferried Dante and Virgil across the Styx River.
Wow, that sounds interesting. What else happened in the book?
Well, the book journeys through the different levels of sin present within human nature and how heaven can only be reached by rising above these sins. The book begins with a man named Dante walking through a forest, who is in a midlife crisis and must make a Hobson's choice, choosing between his love for the city and his love for his girlfriend. After walking through the dark, scary forest and running into 3 dangerous animals that block his way to the light that beamed with great pride, Dante finally runs into a serendipity. He meets his favorite poet, Virgil, who galvanizes Dante to come with him to a journey through hell, which will contain pandemonium and craziness, but will eventually lead to Dante reaching heaven, a nirvana for Dante. Journeying through anti-hell and each circle of hell was exactly what Dante would do. After going through anti-hell, Dante went to the first circle of hell, Limbo, because Virgil told him to follow him there.
Wait, I thought Limbo was a dance.
No! Limbo is defined as the supposed abode of the soul of unbaptized infants and of the just who died before Christ's coming. Anyway, after Limbo, he continues his journey through the other circles. He observes much and he meets many people, including the Gorgon Medusa.
Sounds interesting, but how can we relate this to the philosophies we have learned?
We can relate this book to the philosophies of the Bible, as it clearly utilizes the idea of heaven and hell. In this Bible universe, God has created everything and is benevolent to all people. According to this philosophy, people are created to be in a relationship with God, and the only reason God sends people to this hell Dante visited is because free will causes people to break and relationship with God.
Nice, but that contradicts Sartre's and Lorenz's philosophy found within The Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies explores the result of free will in an uncontrolled environment. It is about a bunch of boys who are stranded on an island, and how they choose to take control of their situation. At first, the island seemed like a Shangri-La to the boys, but as they spent more time on it, that all changed. These boys, afraid and scared, have to make many choices. There was a lack of rules on this slightly dangerous island due to the underdeveloped minds of the children, and the chaos of the situation is emphasized by the presence of only males on the island. Also, the variety of ages would allow for the little ones to be tantalized by the big kids until the little ones were deathly afraid of the wild. They chose to create roles for each other to pander each other's desire for purpose. Jack was a charlatan, telling everyone that he could hunt even though he was terrible at it. This attempted to go towards a path of civility, but they ended up reverting back to their chaotic ways and killed each other until a suit came to rescue them. This aligns with Sartre's philosophy and how there is no God, purpose, or rules within his universe. He says that all roles are self-generated, such as how the boys on the island created roles for themselves. Ralph, expressing the ideas of civility, was the leader until Jack, representing the presence of fear and savagery, shifted the boys over to his group. The chauvinism of Piggy, aka the tub of lard, to Ralph's group is what got him wrongfully killed. Afterwards, Ralph became a rabbit hunted by snakes. This is describing what a base human society is like, and connects with Lorenz's philosophy of how all people are humans and that they operate in packs. Their nature is driven by the 4 animalistic drives: fight, flight, hunger, and reproduction. This could translate to the levels of violence, gluttony, and lust found within Dante's Inferno. Although if the Bible philosophy was correct, and everyone's human nature contained sins, then all people would break their innate relationship with God due to their basic human nature.
That's enough of that babbling nonsense. Although you say, in The Lord of the Flies, the boys are controlled by their own rules, Skinner's philosophy found in the book would well explain why the boys started to become animalistic and savage-like. Skinner says that science is the basis of everything. He also says that humans are controlled by their environment, and if there's a problem with the people, the environment has a problem. In this uncontrollable and wild environment, it's not surprising that these Philistines themselves became wild.
Well, that's a good point, I guess, but is that the only instance you could think of where people were corrupted by their surroundings?
Well, not exactly. I guess you do retain robust reasoning. But let's move on. In contrast to Lord of the Flies, in The Postman, you can see Confucian and Freud philosophical ideas throughout the book. This book fast-forwards through to a futuristic time period in a post-apocalyptic world. The story plot is about a survivor who tries to rekindle a collapsed nation after finding a tawdry postman jacket and taking on a position of a postman. In doing this, he attempts to reconnect the nation with new technology and more communication. The postman aligns with the Confucian philosophy that people are corrupt, selfish, and ignorant. Just like the Confucian philosophy says, the people in this post-apocalyptic world are mostly greedy and selfish people trying to steal food or resources. He also says that humans have no control over their destiny, but can choose how they live, just as the people of the post-apocalyptic world do. Freud's philosophy was also seen in The Postman. Freud says nothing is accidental, such as how the postman's finding the jacket was all meant for a purpose. Freud also says that people have some conscious and conscious mind, which consists of id, ego, and superego. The main character, Gordon, shows that he has all of these mindsets throughout the book, even though he mainly uses his ego and superego. Freud and Confucian ideas connect through the postman smoothly and flawlessly.
That is true, but those ideals are opposed in Anthem, where Kant and Plato's philosophies are present. Anthem portrays an attempt at a utopian society. The society is trying to enforce a mindset of we and us among its citizens to avoid individualization. After experiencing chaos, the society spent generations getting rid of the word and idea of I, so that no such bedlam could ever occur again. This encouraged Plato's philosophy that everyone is trying to work for the betterment of society. Although society was trying to suppress the three parts of the soul within the philosophy: appetite, spirit, and logic. This continues until a man named Equality 72521 discovered a secret tunnel. In no time, Equality started to make breakthroughs in technology. After being rejected from the society, he, along with Liberty 3000, ventured into the uncharted forest, which symbolized freedom as well as chaos and uncontrollable power of individuality. They, soon renamed Prometheus and Gaia, discovered the history of the word I, and other phrases which helped them better express themselves and their emotions. Astounded, Prometheus wanted to spread this joyous feeling, and although this was a good thing, it made Prometheus hungry for change and made him want to take over the society. He was becoming narcissistic and wanted to show everyone else that his way was right. The three parts of his soul were being revealed. Kant's philosophy also agrees with the story in that he says humans are animals and moral beings. He also says that this is due to the fact that humans are sensible and have the ability to imagine and understand. Prometheus realized his individuality through instinct and his ability to imagine. And although he may have wanted to do something that might have led to bad consequences in the end, such as overthrowing the society, he had good intentions. He never betrayed his ideals, but his ideals betrayed him.
Well, you make a valid point, too. But we didn't only read books throughout the year. What were all those poems about again?
Well, they can all be interpreted differently, but one poem I really liked was Perfect Wave by Shel Silverstein. It illustrated a man who waited for the perfect wave that he could surf. This desire was so overwhelming that he spent his entire life waiting to the point where he became lethargic and his body was basically vacant of his spirit by the time it arrived. It incorporated a loose formatted rhyme scheme and an iambic pentameter. This helped progress the story while also staying circular. Also, almost all the stanzas ended in the phrase, the perfect wave, to emphasize the need the character felt to have a perfect wave. The man's desire for a perfect wave was only satiated when it came, and his euphoria was shown by saying that he reached the top of monuments all around the world. The wave was a colossus. He, the living dead, was mesmerized and wrote it until he was actually dead. Silverstein incorporated strong imagery throughout the poem, and his use of juxtapositions with the wave created an epiphany of what was right and wrong.
Very interesting, Satvik. One of the poems I read that I thought was cool was called A Total Stranger, One Black Day by Edward Cummings. This poem, with only 5 lines to it, had multiple interpretations. I believe it was metaphorical, and it's about a man who has a guilty or bad side of him that he does not like, but eventually has to accept it. This poem indeed has no rhyming, but like the perfect wave, has an iambic pentameter that gives it rhythm. Cummings uses a lack of capitalization and grammar to further loosen the structure of the poem. The last line of the poem, "But now the fiend and I are such," really shows the acceptance of himself.
Yeah, both those poems had an unpredictable rhythm and a loose structure, but a poem that we read that had a more straightforward rhythm was Crazy Times by Miriam Waddington. There is rhythm between the first and third lines and the second and fourth lines of each stanza. It also uses a juxtaposition in every line of the first and second stanzas. These juxtapositions create a sense of chaos by pairing 2 contradictory terms together. The passage also gradually loses punctuation to show how the poem gets more crazy as it progresses. This all leads to an ending about how they will tell the tales of those crazy times. The poem is saying how, as time passes, you experience the spontaneous nature of the world, and that once you near the end of your life, you will have many stories to tell.
Flight to Limbo by John Updike is a little different from Crazy Times, in which Flight to Limbo has no rhythm or rhyme structure at all. The poem is about people who are bored while waiting to get on a flight to Limbo. This makes the title itself ironic in that it is talking about the pre-flight to Limbo. Throughout the poem there is parallel structure which helps it to create a balance and consistency of ideas. In the poem there are also many other figurative languages. For example, Updike uses the metaphor of a wing of behemoths to represent planes. Also, in the line, the lone clerk dealt patiently, noiselessly, endlessly, with a large day's family ranging. There is an obvious usage of an asyndeton. Although the stanzas are more like paragraphs, and the passage is loosely structured, it still qualifies as a good poem.
Well, that's all, folks. Thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed this particular podcast. I'm Satvik Mada.
And I'm Shaan, Desai, signing out. Kaboom!